Please rise if you wish for the invocation and the pledge. Dear God, tonight we are so grateful for the many residents and stakeholders who have stepped up to offer their services as we look to appoint the initial DeBerry Foundation Board. Each brings talents and knowledge that would be helpful. Each has demonstrated a willingness to donate time and effort to the community. These are valued and admirable qualities, and we appreciate all applicants. Give us wisdom in making our selections. There are other matters before us this evening that have long-lasting consequences as we seek to move our city forward. We ask for wisdom in making these decisions as well. In all of our discussions, help us to be informed by knowledge and understanding that we may best serve those who have entrusted us to represent them. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This is the special City Council meeting for the month of May. Acting City Attorney, would you do the, Acting City Clerk, would you do the roll call, please?
Yes, ma'am. Councilmember Sal?
Here.
Councilmember Papalardo? Councilmember Stevenson?
Here.
Vice Mayor Butlin?
Here.
Mayor Shezay?
Here. Are there any deletions or amendments to the agenda? Hearing none, we will move to the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as listed as 1 and 2.
Second.
Vice Mayor Butlin?
Yes.
Councilmember Sell?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevenson?
Yes.
And I am a yes. So we move on to public hearings, agenda item number 3. The staff is requesting the City Council approve the first reading of ordinance number 01-2025, amending the Land Development Code to add regulations and standards for vehicular stacking. City Attorney, would you read ordinance number 01-2025?
An ordinance of the City of DeBerry, Florida, amending Chapter 7, Article 3 of the City Code to add Section 7.12 to provide for vehicular stacking regulations and standards, providing for codification, severability, conflicts, and an effective date.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Stephen Bapp, Growth Management Director. I will be giving the overview of the ordinance. Chapter 7 of the new Land Development Code provides standards and regulations for circulation and parking. Part of this chapter addresses parking and loading, however, does not directly involve vehicular stacking. An example of vehicular stacking is vehicles lined up to access a certain business or facility, such as a Chick-fil-A. Cars are lined up to go through a service window. That is what's called vehicle stacking, and it applies to many uses throughout the city. What the ordinance will do, it will amend Chapter 7 to address vehicular stacking. It'll be applicable to all land uses and site developments where vehicular stacking or queuing may occur as part of its routine operations. Includes things such as drive-through, pickup zones, and service areas, with the intent is to not impact and use our city rights-of-way as part of the stacking configuration. The proposed design standards will include stacking lanes, which are designed to accommodate the peak demand volumes, vehicle spacing dimensions, stacking lane widths, requirement for pass-throughs, and prohibiting stacking and bypass lanes from obstructing fire lanes and other public facilities. The ordinance will also include signage and striping. It'll prohibit parking spaces being utilized for stacking. It'll give provisions for post-construction compliance, meaning if stacking becomes an issue onto our city rights-of-way, we have provisions to make the appropriate improvements to our city rights-of-way. Requirements for vehicle stacking study to be conducted with every development, circulation and safety coordination, off-site improvements. The staff and the DRC did review this, and we find it consistent with the comprehensive plan compatibility. The proposed objective has been reviewed against the goals, objectives, and policies of our plan. The future land use element of the plan facilitates for the development of the use of land, And Objective 5.5 requires the city to establish certain land development regulations. Further, we have policies that address and provision for parking and off-site traffic circulation. As such, we find this ordinance consistent with our comprehensive plan. It is hereby recommended that the City Council approve the first reading of Ordinance 01-2025 to amend LDC Chapter 7, Article 3 to add Section 7.12 and appropriate tables, establishing regulations and standards for vehicle stacking. If the City Council approves the first reading of this ordinance, the staff will advertise the second reading of the proposed ordinance in the Orlando Sentinel. Thank you.
Thank you. Acting City Clerk, do we have any public participation?
No, ma'am, we do not.
Councilmember Sell, questions or comments?
What about like an HOA gate where the gate breaks and you have cars backed up trying to get in the gate? That, like, what's the penalty? Is there any penalty, or are they just going to have somebody come and tell them to move along?
Well, gate breaking would not be part of the normal operation of a HOA. A business such as a restaurant, a daycare, uses such as that would be subject to this. Residential, I don't see that as being applicable.
But it would apply to all DeBerry public roads?
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
I mean, that could be a one time in a year incident.
Yeah,
We
this is
assure
more for
incidents and accidents do
reoccurring.
occur.
This is
You know.
more for reoccurring kind of thing?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Councilmember Stevenson.
Thank you. When I was reviewing this before the meeting, I was really glad that this was being brought up as we're having, the final development, especially in the TOD area and some more commercial and businesses and things like that. I think it's important that we're protecting the ability for people to use the public roads, and this looks like a solid ordinance. Thank you.
Vice Mayor Butlin.
Thank you, Mayor. I think this is a good ordinance to add and enhance what we have already. Going on the same wavelength as Councilmember Sell, what is the penalty? Do they have a time frame? Is it like a code enforcement? You have to fix. How do they fix something like that? If it's a Chick-fil-A, and everyone goes to Chick-fil-A every day for lunch, and it's backed up every day at lunch, where are they going to go? What's the penalty? I'm just curious.
Well, that's a good question, and something, let us research that, and we can certainly amend it in the second reading there. But the primary focus is not to, for business operations to use our city streets as part of business operation. And so let me research for that penalty, so to speak, and what the corrective action will need to take place.
And the ordinance does address if this is an occurrence or a problem, and then the developer or the owner will make appropriate changes and modification to the city rights-of-way or site to accommodate and relieve the problem.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's it.
I do welcome this discussion because we have had stacking issues throughout the city for various reasons. Following up on Councilmember Sell's comment about HOA gates, some of this goes back to design. And this would also apply to a fast food restaurant that's being designed, an HOA that's going to be gated. I would see that it would apply to that. We have had certain gated HOAs in the city of DeBerry where the entrance gate is not very far from the edge of the public road. And it hasn't been a one-off thing. It's not like the gate broke one day. It's like every day the traffic is stopped on the public road because somebody's contractor's key doesn't work or the code doesn't work. Or they're taking a lot of time to get their data in. Doesn't tend to be the gate for residents. Tends to be service workers and visitors that back up, but there's no place else for them to go other than the public street. And this happens routinely. It's not a one-off. It's not a, something happened today, oh, look at that. Who could have imagined that a UPS truck would be followed by a trash truck and the road would be blocked? It's not that. And so some of this goes to design, and I think that we need to be very careful when we are approving the layout of new facilities like restaurants, fast food restaurants, or other facilities where there are peak times of traffic, so that we don't use public roads to stack the traffic. But we also need to do this for HOA gates, particularly when we have experience where some of them back up and do close roads. And I, one day, did go around when it was clear. I went around the stacked traffic, and I got my first ticket in 50 years. In the city of, first ticket in 50 years, no matter where. And it's called improper passing. And I got frustrated. I know it frustrates our residents. And I'm heartily supporting this effort to have something in our land development code that addresses this from day one. And I do think we have to have reasonable remediation efforts for existing things that either develop a new problem because it wasn't foreseen that this would happen. You know, we had a pandemic and all of a sudden patterns changed and things happened that we hadn't seen before. So I am concerned between first and second reading that we think through some of these things in applications that perhaps weren't envisioned when this ordinance was drafted.
Okay.
Mayor?
Yes.
One comment. Certainly, one of the things that can be done is through law enforcement. You post.
Yeah, they did enforce it.
Yeah, and other than that, but if
And I was not mad at them. They were doing their job, but boy.
if cars are routinely blocking the right of way, certainly the city can post no stacking or stopping on the city right of way.
This is the difficulty.
I know, and
Because it's a tradesperson waiting to get to their customer.
but
And they don't have any forewarning. They're not there every single day, but tradespeople, multiple ones all day long, are there every day. It's not
Correct.
like one party.
correct. But if the sign that says you cannot block the right of way, you cannot block the road, and they block the road, then certainly there could be citations written on that. And certainly that hurts the business, it hurts their customers, et cetera, et cetera. So from a law enforcement standpoint, that's a solution. We also will look at what the business ramifications are if it certainly occurs, and what responsibilities are on the businesses as well.
For some of these existing situations, there are no easy redesign solutions. Like where I was, it was on Fort Florida Road. There's not even a way you can say circle around and come back and take your turn when the next guy moves forward. The circle around would be 6 miles. So I think maybe we need to look at that a little bit.
Sure.
Okay, is there any further discussion? If not, I would entertain a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to approve ordinance number 012025, the proposed amendment to the LDC to create section 7.12 to provide for regulations and standards for vehicle stacking.
Second.
Councilmember Sell?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevenson?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Butlin?
Yes.
And I am a yes. The next agenda item is a staff request that the City Council consider a waiver for the modification of the brick paver design for Main Street, and if the modification is accepted, approve the first reading of ordinance number 02-2025, a minor amendment to the DeBerry Town Park mixed planned use development. I will note that this will be a quasi-judicial hearing. I'm going to ask the city attorney to read the ordinance first, and then I will, as our charter insists, outline the procedure for a quasi-judicial hearing.
Mayor?
Yes.
Mayor, we
Ordinance-
we do not have the.
You don't have ordinance number
in our agenda packet.
02-2025?
Do
Okay.
either of you have the the ordinance?
Do we have the ordinance in the agenda packet?
Mr. Bapp, do you have the ordinance?
I don't know why it's not in the agenda packet. We'll get you a copy.
Well, it's not very good form for us to vote on an ordinance that we haven't heard.
No. Mayor, if we want to take a 2 or 3 minute or 5 minute
All right,
recess, and then.
we're
we
going
can-
to take a 5-minute recess. I am not comfortable with having an ordinance that we don't have at hand being voted on. So we stand adjourned for 5 minutes. adjourn? No, we're back in session. Okay, the council meeting is now back in session, so City Attorney, would you read ordinance number 02, 2025, please?
Yes, Mayor, and apologies to the entire council. This one's on me. Ordinance number 02-2025, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of DeBary, Florida, approving a Second Amendment to Development Agreement as approved by ordinance number 12-2022, as amended by ordinance number 09-2023 for the DeBary Town Park Transit-Oriented Development Project, being a multi-use project on approximately 32.17 plus-minus acres of land located on the west side of U.S. Highway 1792, having Volusia County tax parcel identification numbers 9004012300010 and 90040000040, providing for severability, conflicts, and an effective date.
Thank you so much. This will be a quasi-judicial hearing, and this is the order of business for such hearings in the city of DeBary. Initially, our acting city clerk will swear in any witnesses who expect to speak on this hearing, at this hearing, who are not lawyers. Secondly, we will have disclosure of ex parte communications by the city council. The city council will be individually polled by the acting city clerk. Then we will have a presentation of the proposal by city staff, which can take up to 10 minutes, and that will be followed by the applicant's case, up to 15 minutes, and any portion of the 15 minutes could be reserved for rebuttal. Following that, we will have public participation, if any, 3 minutes per speaker. And then there will be the applicant's rebuttal, if needed, to any public participation. And following that, having heard all of the input, the council will deliberate and ask questions of whichever party they deem they need information from, and then the council will act. So, acting city clerk, would you swear in any witnesses?
All witnesses, please rise. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. And then you will poll each sitting council person as to any ex parte communications on this agenda item.
Mr. Sal?
None.
Councilmember Stevenson?
None.
Vice Mayor Butlin?
None.
Mayor Chazet?
I did have a meeting with the applicant's attorney in order to hear what the presentation would be as far as departing from what was in the development order and the request to do sidewalks or intersections. It was a discussion to get the information, and I did not reveal any of my reactions to the various options. I've held that thought process and decision-making and opinion-making until this hearing. So following that, we will have the presentation by the city staff.
Good evening, Stephen Bapp, Growth Management Director. I will be giving city staff's presentation. Background on this case: on 6 April 2022, the council approved the sketch plan for DeBary Town Park, which comprised 229 townhomes, 36 live-work units, 31 single-family detached homes, and 4 commercial tracts of land. In October 2022, the city adopted the ordinance, which adopted the development agreement and the master development plan for the DeBary Town Park mixed-use development. This development agreement included an Exhibit C, which was a list of waivers from the Land Development Code. In August of 2023, after more work, the City Council approved an ordinance to amending Exhibit C, adding additional waivers from Chapter 5, Article 7. And then October 28th, 2023, the city manager issued a development order for the the DeBary Town Park preliminary plat. On April 8th, 2025, an application was submitted for a minor PUD amendment to Exhibit C of the development agreement to add a new waiver from the requirements of brick pavers on Main Street, which is LDC Section 5.62C1E13, and to add a new Exhibit 2A, which displays the new configuration. On May 6, 2025, the Development Review Committee motion to move the proposed minor PUD amendment forward to the City Council for review. What does this ordinance do? It amends Exhibit C of the Tom Park MPUD, which requires brick pavers to be utilized. It adds an Exhibit 2A, which will show and depict the newly proposed design for Main Street. The applicant has provided the following three options. Well, one option is really remain as is. This is what is required by the Land Development Code, showing hardscape of Main Street. And this shows right now the illustration of DeBerry Tom Park. There are two alternatives which will be presented for your consideration tonight, which may be further articulated by the applicant following me. One is our alternative one, which includes the brick pavers of the crosswalk areas, of the pedestrian crosswalks, the sidewalks, and the full bridge. Alternative number two expands the use of the brick pavers to include the intersections which bisect or impact or cross and end at Main Street. Requests for waivers were reviewed against the criteria set forth in the Land Development Code, which states the City Council may grant a waiver when it has been provided evidence that the requested waiver is necessary to meet the intent of the given section, and the purpose of the waiver shall not be based on economic hardships. We looked at the two considerations which were listed on the screen of the existing industrial uses of Shell Road or very heavy vehicles will damage the brick paver surface and create long-term maintenance issues for the city. The proposed modification will allow the pavers to remain in certain locations but eliminate the full paver surface to limit future city associated with repeated wear and replacement of pavers. And then also, since the construction of Shell Road is part of the city's adopted mobility plan and associated mobility fee structure, the proposed modification will reduce the cost of initial installation and mobility fee credits or reimbursements due from the city that result of the costs. We considered several things for you to look at. While it is true that the existing surrounding uses are industrial, please bear in mind that the City Council did amend the comprehensive plan to expand the TUD overlay district that goes into effect on June 1st, 2025. So those areas will not remain forever in an industrial state. The geotech engineering letter from Pura Vida Engineering Services issued to the developer's law firm indicates that brick pavers were developed to support heavy traffic loading in the proposed development. Also, while utilizing brick pavers is more expensive in the short term, we believe there should be data provided from an industry-approved source showing the long-term costs of maintenance of this claim. Waiving the paver requirement would make the pedestrian environment visually less pleasant, and pedestrian pathways and open spaces would be better complemented by roadways utilizing brick pavers. Those are factors we looked at and would like you to consider as well. It is recommended that the City Council consider a waiver for the modification, and if the modification is accepted, approve the first reading of Ordinance 2-2025. If so approved, if the first reading is so approved, staff will advertise the second reading of the proposed ordinance in the Rolando Sentinel, and the applicant will notify property owners within 300 feet and thus also post the property for public hearing. That is my portion.
Thank you. All right, the applicant may present their case.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the council. For the record, Mark Watts with the law firm of Cobb Cole, 231 North Woodland Boulevard, DeLand. Got ahead of myself there. This whole not having an ordinance, it's never happened to me, so threw me a little bit there. But I will say, Mr. Geller, you have the perfect voice for reading ordinances, so I think I've said that before, but it sounds fantastic. We appreciate your time this evening, and I want to start out, I've got Ryan Williams and Brian Kinsey here with me from the Falcone team. They have been working with you now, as you are all well aware, for several years to help bring the Main Street vision, to fruition. And I think that that process has been a very good one, and we appreciate the time and energy your staff and you all have spent with us working through the waivers that have come in before and the things that have come together to really get the project underway. As you know, it is underway. The property's been cleared. They own the land. They are actively under development with the site. But one of the things, and I've got a couple slides to go through here, one of the things that has came up sometime probably middle of last year or so is the discussion of, in the context of your mobility plan and in the context of the mobility fee that the city has assessed in the TOD area, we got into the discussion of the improvements that are being constructed and the ones that would be creditable or reimbursable from the city's mobility fee program. And so in the context of that, as we began moving forward with development and began pricing some of those elements of the overall project, we ran into substantial issues with that cost. Not only with that cost, but also with how much of that cost then converted into mobility fee credits or reimbursements from the mobility fees that the city collects elsewhere. And so that kind of began a conversation that's been going on for probably 8 to 10 months now. And I appreciate the time that Carmen and Stephen and Joseph and Richard have spent with us looking through spreadsheets, looking through options to try and come up with a solution that really addresses a couple of things. One, some of the long-term maintenance, and I'll go into that in just a second, but also, the kind of the overall cost both to the development and to the city under that mobility program. So this is the specific waiver that we're requesting this evening. So it's section 5.62C1E13 relating to pavers, and you can see the section 13 there regarding the requirement that we utilize brick pavers. And as you've seen in the staff materials and what we've submitted, we are not looking to get rid of pavers altogether. What we're trying to do is come up with a reasonable alternative that keeps that vision, keeps that look and feel, but also helps avoid both initial costs and some of those long-term maintenance costs. I've talked about the mobility plan, and this is, I think, one of the keys that led us into the discussion of how we have to go through this and allocate the costs. And there are certain costs that we've all agreed are 100% development costs through this process, and there are certain costs that we've agreed need to be split based on certain percentages. This is one of the alternatives that has been discussed, but at the end of the day, we all agreed that while we could agree in a room, this may be a good idea and a way to help resolve some of the cost issues. It's only you that has the ability to then move forward with the waiver because it is one of the requirements under the TOD plan. But what I've highlighted there is this is your current mobility plan. This is the technical report that you adopted to implement your mobility plan. And the section that you see there with the red box around it is Shell Road. So all of the costs that you see in Table 1 under the mobility plan are the mobility projects that resulted in the calculation of your fee. So as fees are paid or projects are developed that implement portions of this plan, either the collected fees go to pay for the cost of that, or as you're building those components of the plan, you have credits or reimbursements that come back to it. So that's an important component that's required. You've got it in your code, although you've got some limitations in your code, but state law also requires in a couple different places that you have those credits provided so that you don't have something that exceeds the rational nexus that's required for exactions in Florida. So what we have come up with is a couple of different alternatives. Alternative or option one, and these kind of are numbered based on the spreadsheet I'll show you at the end. Option one is to replace the road surface with asphalt and maintain brick pavers and landings, so the curbing and all the areas that are in the pedestrian areas on either side of the roadway would be maintained with pavers. It would also be for the bridge, on the south end of the property. We've got a few kind of street level examples of what that looks like. These are some of our renderings that were done for the project itself, showing that switch with the pavers and then the asphalt road surface. There's the bridge and how the bridge will continue to appear with this alternative. And then finally, I tried to find a couple of pictures that would show kind of what's that look like in other places. So these are a couple, Google found these for me, so it's not like I wasn't able to go out and find some and snap pictures of them, but these are some representative images of areas where you have the kind of the asphalt, the paver sections for the pedestrian. Incidentally, one of the things that I've heard from traffic engineers is this is also good because it creates a very distinct change in the surface with respect to pedestrian safety and crossings. Option two, and this, the staff asked us to kind of develop a couple of options. The second option would be to expand that paver area somewhat and have the intersections, the key intersections, the mid-block crossings, all of those continue with pavers, and then maintain the asphalt surface, kind of in between those sections. Again, went out, Google helped me find a few examples that we could show of kind of those signature intersections with pavers with asphalt going off of that. And this is really small to see. So let me pull it up here and I'll reference it here because this is really kind of the operative portion of it. What we've provided here in this breakdown is a couple things, and I just want to go over those with you really quick. So the main spreadsheet that you see relates to the cost of doing the full road, and this has been broken out so it's just the city cost. So it's just the road itself. It's not any of the things adjacent to the roadway. So this is just the portion of the paver, cost that would be part of that Shell Road reconstruction under your mobility plan. So the current estimates and quotes that we have for the construction of the whole area as pavers is $522,000. Option one reduces that to $206,987. Option two reduces it to $263,776. And obviously those are our estimates. Those can change a little bit. But the key is that these are also the numbers that we then believe would be subject to credits or reimbursement under the mobility plan. We talked about maintenance, and I want to point out the box on the top left, because here's where I think the maintenance comes in. And I appreciate staff's comment. I know that the TOD area has been expanded, and you've got what now are the possibilities of some of those industrial users going away over time and choosing to locate in other places. I know that one of them, at least one of them that's a client of our firm, has trucks that are in excess of 70 or 80,000 pounds that come up and down Shell Road. And that's going to have an impact. And you're right, I think the engineers have said, yes, you can have pavers and high impact pavers and we've agreed that, if we do pavers and, as pavers are put in the crossings or in the intersections, those would meet those specs, the high impact paver specs. But one of the things from the standpoint of maintenance, you also see here, the per square foot cost of those pavers. So $15.75 per square foot for pavers versus $3.54 for asphalt. And it's not necessarily that initial cost that we're most concerned about, but from the city's perspective, that long-term cost. Because what our contractors have told us, the brick paver contractor that we've worked with, engineers that we've worked with, it will cost you these numbers to go in and install those pavers initially. But with that type of traffic, you're looking at resurfacing and redoing these every 10 years versus every 20 years for typical asphalt surfaces or paver surfaces. So that's one of the principal concerns, is that this cost would then be incurred going forward in the future as the city has to take over maintenance of what would be then that public roadway. So, and I recognize that your consideration can't be solely economic hardship. I think part of this is trying to create a long-term, kind of better picture from a cost standpoint for the city, initial picture from a cost standpoint for both the development team and for the city, but also be able to have something that, still captures and maintains the look and feel that you're trying to achieve with regard to Main Street. You will still have higher costs with redoing pedestrian crosswalks. You will still have higher costs with redoing intersections, depending on the alternative that we arrive at. But the key is not having that higher cost on the entire run of the road. And recall, there's still more Shell Road to go. So this represents about, trying to remember, about 60% of the distance for Shell Road, but there's that remaining distance to get all the way up to Benson Junction that, you're going to have the same issue with going forward with regard to those costs. So with that, I'm here to answer any questions. Our development team members are here to answer any questions you might have. If there's any public, we'll sit down and let them speak to it. But I appreciate your time, and we ask to, get your input on options and, kind of how we can move forward from here, because I think otherwise we're all excited to see the project come to fruition. So.
Thank you. Acting City Clerk, do we have any public participation?
No, ma'am, we do not.
Thank you. Councilmember Sell.
I got to ask questions or
Yes, sir.
I'm not doing my job. And I'm going to get yelled at, I'm sure. I always like option 3. Like I was thinking about, could we just do the sidewalks and then do the green crosswalks so we had consistency throughout the city? Or would that just not fit in with the decor?
Green crosswalks are.
Well, the sidewalks are going to be pavers anyway. So if you do the paver pedestrian crossings, theoretically, they could be any color that you prefer.
Well, you know how we're going to
Yes.
try some areas with
This
the
is
green
not trails,
crosswalks
though.
like Sanford has.
Yes,
I know they would stand out down there maybe too much.
but the pavers on the sidewalk are going to remain, and they will
Okay.
match what goes across. And if you want to do whatever coloring you want to paint them green, that's our prerogative. But theoretically, what they're asking for, option 1, is the pedestrian crossings being pavers, and then the pavers on the sidewalk. So you still get that paver feel and look. And I'll just continue if you don't mind. And some of these things are transitional because there is other areas that are adjacent to this particular property that are industrial, and we've been talking about and all these transitional issues. We're even talking about a back road to try to offset some of the traffic, the heavy duty traffic there. Certainly, Crush has got to make a left-hand turn only out of there. There's got to be, and maybe during transition, some parking spaces that might be, we have to label no parking for a little bit until we make this transitional issue so that these trucks can reduce the liability for them as well as the city as well. And so there's some transitional issues that we'll have to negotiate going forward. But again, what they're asking for is just a waiver on the pavers. And, we did the Main Street regulations back in 2020. Life was a little different back then, and the construction costs certainly have doubled since then, and I think there's good evidence of that. And so, yes, the decision you're going to be making tonight will affect, obviously, the project to the south, to the point where we want to try to make it as consistent as possible to make it look like it's all one. And so these are some of the transitional discussions and negotiations we're having with the developer, and we appreciate them. Obviously, when we have a lot of questions, they're responding, and we're all trying to work together to make sure these transitional issues are dealt with. We've been negotiating with the mobility fee credits, and I think this is down to the last issue.
I think this is probably down to the last issue, is trying to resolve what this cost is so we can finalize that.
Yes,
But
we can finalize the mobility agreement and what reimbursements they will be eligible for. And so all these things have been going back and forth for the last 8 or 9 months. And so we're trying to do the best we can with these unique transitional issues that we have with the industrial properties being adjacent.
Well, and I think we've been successful in probably bringing the collective cost between the city and the projects down by almost $1 million through this process of working together.
This is great. Appreciate that a lot. Yeah, I do. Can we do option 1 with the sidewalks or the crosswalks and the bridge?
The bridge is included in option one,
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, bridge is all paid.
no matter what.
Sold.
Yeah.
Okay. Councilmember Stevenson.
Thank you for this presentation. I know when we were making these plans to have the brick road was really, I think, part of the main idea and visioning that everybody had that set us apart. Do we have any hard numbers for the expected lifespan for brick pavers with these heavy-duty brick pavers?
Well, as he indicated, 10 years for brick pavers and 20 years for asphalt. But there's an element here that's different, is that you have 80 to 100,000 pound semi-trucks, dump trucks, I guess, that will be making left-hand turns. So if you can put up the display for me.
Yeah, I'd like to see a map. What exactly is this overlap area? How much of an
Go back to
area?
option one. There.
Sorry.
That's the bridge, the faux bridge.
The faux bridge is to the south.
the crosswalk.
Crush Supply is
Over here.
where, and Mark, correct me if I'm wrong, that the two pedestrian crossings there are about where Crush is at,
I think they're, yes, that's correct.
approximately, on the left-hand side of the document. And so they'll be making left-hand turns out of there. And you can see there's a pretty good stretch there. If that was all pavers, chances are we'd probably be a lot less than 10 years on fixing all those pavers. It may happen pretty quickly. I mean, it could be 3 to 5 years that we're replacing all those.
I can say anecdotally, DeLand on Georgia Avenue, which is the area where Cafe Da Vinci and Persimmon Hollow are, where the Friday evening market is, they redid that as a brick street and have had to pull it up and redo several sections of it, largely because of the beer trucks that go up and down through there. So that and some stormwater settling that's occurred. So.
But I think with as you can see, the sidewalks are also pavers, and I think it will provide enough upscale decoration or amenity that it would still provide the significant look that the city and y'all have originally looked for.
What's the estimated possible timeline that the industrial zone is still going to remain having industrial activity? Do we have any clue?
That's market driven. In talking with some of the vendors there, I mean, obviously they're getting calls, even the possibility of doing it themselves. So I think you're going to see, as this project gets developed, you're going to see the market value of the land is going to go up exponentially, and that will certainly, in my opinion, entice folks to sell out if they so desire.
Well, I can see based on this, that really is quite a significant part of the road that would be undergoing the industrial stress. Is there any possibility of us saying, just do asphalt on the part that's going to be industrial for now, with the plan of once it's converted and no longer industrial, that it gets pavers?
Well, one of the, obviously we're looking for consistency, obviously, because if you don't get consistency, then that's where you get that thought process that maybe we didn't do a quality job. What I explained, I don't remember who I explained it to, there's always a possibility that if Crush ever gets sold out and there's going to be homes there, nothing prevents the city from coming back in and putting the pavers at the intersections or redoing the road and pavers in the future at some point in time. So there's nothing that prevents the city, after all this is done, to come back and enhance it. Now, if we ask for pavers at the intersection, obviously the city would be paying for the pavers. So if you wait and hold that money, theoretically, you could use that money to do something in the future. I mean, there's a number of different options in the future. And so if you wanted to do the intersections later, you could. If you wanted to do the entire road later, you could as well. So it's because you would, if they did the entire road, you'd be paying for it. If they did just the intersection, you'd still be paying for it. And so ultimately, if they don't do it, then the money stays with the city, and then you can do it in the future if you so desire.
What's the difference between regular pavers and ADA pavers?
bumps?
Richard, the ADA pavers.
Are they the ones with the bumps?
Come up here, Rich. Richard, come up to the microphone.
You got to get the microphone, sorry.
You know, where people can feel the difference between the street and the paver?
Richard Villasenor, city engineer. The difference here would be, I think, it's not listed here specifically, but it could be the ones with the truncated domes for that detectable warning surface. It could also mean the edging of the pavers themselves, where they might be chamfered for purposes of providing a smoother surface versus a gap. So it could indicate that as well. Yeah, and it could require just a little more research just to confirm what exactly.
So are we planning to have ADA pavers or regular ones?
So I'll let Brian address this one.
Brian Kinsey from the Falcone Group. The ADA pavers that are referenced on all of the summaries are already included on the plans, and therefore the areas, like Richard was saying, just at the edge of the paver transition to concrete, or as you see it, in the normal sidewalk, those are staying throughout. We just wanted to give the city the full breadth of what the cost of the pavers would be.
Okay, I understand. Thank you for that clarification. I have no more questions.
Vice Mayor Butland.
Thank you, Mayor. I do have questions.
Yes, ma'am.
Go back to the pavers. The difference between road and pedestrians, is that the material that the bricks are made of? I see road pavers, I see pedestrian pavers. I just want to make sure.
Yes, it's, as Carmen was mentioning earlier, it's the different strength rating of the paver for the heavier traffic versus a lighter pedestrian paver.
So if we went to the paver crosswalks, option 1, they would all have pedestrian pavers. There will not be any heavy-duty pavers there.
No, they will be. There'll be the heavy-duty, high-impact
intersection?
pavers. The sidewalks
Are
won't have-
different,
won't
okay.
Won't have
Okay, so we're
cars.
talking crosswalks, not sidewalks.
Yeah.
Gotcha, okay. That's where I was getting a little lost there.
Correct. Yeah, the city, we've been asked, whatever we do across the roadway be high impact, so
Yeah.
that you have the longest lifespan that you possibly can
Okay.
with that.
Perfect. I'm all for consistency, so I like having, I don't want pedestrians to go places where they're not supposed to go. And if I feel if the paver intersections are there, they may not be where the pedestrians should go. So I think being consistent and having it just the crosswalks is the way I would end up going with this, because I think they'll know distinctively where they should be and not be. Don't be in the middle of the road. Thank you, that's it for me.
Okay. Even when we passed the plans that had this all pavers, I had my doubts. Because my daughter lives in Winter Park, in roads that were taken from pavement and done with pavers. And after that major project, the road was so bad, they had to redo it. And every time I drive on it, and my late husband swore at it every time he drove on it, it is not a smooth ride. And this should be a city that has experience with pavers, because their historic pavers don't ride that way. But the newer materials and installation, for whatever reason, even with a redo, is awful. And then I read within the last 6 months, I believe it was St. Cloud, it could have been Kissimmee, but it was a significant city in Osceola, had done a downtown area for aesthetics in pavers. And they had such difficulty with the installation. Now, we really vet our contractors, and we might get the great contractors. They eventually were up to here with it, and they ripped it all out. So I love the look, but I've also been exposed to the real world. And I like the look of option 1. I agree with the Vice Mayor that it clearly distinguishes where the pedestrians will be. And the one thing I did share with the attorney for the applicant was that this council is very concerned about pedestrian and bike safety, and that we're taking actions in other parts of the city. I don't think, for aesthetic reasons, and because this is going to be a much lower speed limit area, that we need to put the green, which slaps you in the face. We for sure, in my view, need the green at High Banks and 1792, and a number of other high-speed, high-trafficked areas in the city. I believe that option one maintains the aesthetics, which are important for this entire development. And I do think that it helps us with maintenance costs. And I appreciate the city staff saying we'd like to see some hard numbers. I don't have hard numbers for you, but I have real life experience as a user in an area where it should have been well implemented, and it just has been not a good experience. So I love the look, but I think it's very difficult, for whatever reason, within today's specs and materials, to duplicate the look and get the kind of experience that you have on Park Avenue in Winter Park, which was done decades and decades ago and is a stable surface. And I do believe that maintenance costs would be higher. And I do agree we need high-impact pavers. I don't think it is practical, even though we have established how this area would expand into a transitional zone. And we believe in market forces, all of us. And we think that there will be an economic lure for those industrial places to maximize the value of their land. It's not going to be today or tomorrow, most likely. This plan has a couple more years before it's built out. So we may get more movement on that. But the buyers may not see the whole vision until we're closer to the end. So this transition could be 5 years or 10 years down the road, where it would look more like we've envisioned for the transitional area. And during all of that time, the business owners are going to operate their businesses. And there are some, I appreciate that there's some consideration on the business's part and the city's part to see, is there some way we can minimize that impact through whatever period of time that remains an industrial area. And we should continue that effort. But we can't make this, that is if this, if that, if the other thing. Tonight we have a decision to make here, and I am strongly in favor of option one. I don't really like the look either of the intersections. So that would be my comment.
Can I make a motion?
You may make a motion.
Legal, how do we want to do this? We want to pick an option, see if it goes for second, and then let me do this.
Go ahead and do
I'll
it.
make a motion to consider a waiver for the modification of the brick paver design for Main Street, and if the modification is accepted, option number one, approved to the first reading of ordinance number 02-2025, a minor amendment to the DeBary Town Park Mixed Plan Unit Development MPUD.
Second?
There we go.
All right. Vice Mayor Butlin?
Yes.
Councilmember Sell?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevenson?
Yes.
And I am a yes.
Thank
And
you.
I don't think you guessed that from my conversation, Mark.
I didn't read anything. You have a poker face, so
Option one.
you were accurate in your disclosure.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And so now I think we need a motion to approve of the ordinance.
Okay.
Oh.
Let's do a
I
second.
thought it was in there as well.
I thought it was
The
too,
first
but
reading of ordinance.
let's do belt and suspenders here, folks. We've got the ordinance, we've done the waiver, let's do the ordinance again.
I said it in my
It
motion,
was said in the motion.
approve the
It
first
was
reading
said
of
in the
ordinance
motion.
It was said in the
02-2025.
It was said in the motion.
Then we're
Yep,
good.
okay.
All right,
We're good.
all right, we're done on that
Thank you, guys.
agenda item. The next item is new business. The city manager is requesting the city council approve the initiation of a foreclosure auction on 150 US Highway 1792, DeBary, Florida, AKA Bank of America Building, and authorize the city manager to expend up to $350,000 if necessary to satisfy the first mortgage held by Regions Bank.
Thank you, Mayor. Obviously, this has been in the works, this building has been in the works for more than 5 years. About a little over a year ago, the permits for the Bank of America building expired. And the 6 months of that activity of that building permit, nothing was done to the building prior. So we established a code enforcement case. The applicant or the complainant the defendant came to the code enforcement hearing, and the special magistrate assessed Eason Realty $500 a day fine for not having active permits for that particular project. It is $500 a day because they are a repeat violation. So right now, the fines total approximately $223,750. So in order to try to rectify and resolve this particular situation, us and the city attorneys and assistant city attorneys have reviewed pooled title reports of the mortgages and the liens that are on the particular property. We did find there were 2 mortgages on the property, of which we inquired, and one of them actually is satisfied, but they not recorded. It was an error in recording, and that recording is in process now. So there's 1 mortgage remaining on the property, which we believe is approximately $235,000. So obviously the building is dilapidated and it poses a public safety risk. There are evidence of folks being into that particular building. There certainly has been some graffiti. And so it has been open to the elements for more than 5 years. And so there's not an active building permit on the property. There has not been an application for a building permit for the property. To resolve a particular issue because of the building code change happened last year, this property owner will have to re-engineer their plans to meet the new building codes and then apply for a building permit. And the fines will continue until such time as an actual building permit is issued. So, Mayor and Council, I think it's the appropriate time to go ahead and push forward. I have Eric Johns here, who's our Assistant City Attorney. You don't come around a whole lot. We work a lot together, and we've been working on this particular project. Certainly can answer any of your legal questions, but what we're asking you for tonight is to approve us to go forward with, and our city attorney, to go forward with filing it for foreclosure, and then authorizing the city manager up to $350,000 to cover the first mortgage and any costs that might exist, and that that if we are successful with the foreclosure, that then we'll work on remediating the property and getting it back into compliance, and then certainly could put it up for sale, could do a number of different things to make sure that the property gets cleared, resolved, and remediated so that it can be rebuilt to the City of DeBary standards. And so I'll leave it for questions for you guys. Mr. Johns is here to answer any of your legal questions you might have.
Acting City Clerk, do we have any public participation?
No, ma'am, we do not.
Thank you. Councilmember Sell, questions or comments?
I hate that it has to come to this, but I passed by that bombed out looking building at least 3-4 times a day, and it really didn't seem like anybody really cared about the residents of DeBary and what we had to look at. I'm sure there's things that live in that building by now, and I'm sure maybe the neighbors might have some critters go into their yards as well. Something has to be done with the building. Well, I had somebody immediately call me yesterday interested in buying it just the way it is. If we were to purchase the building tonight, do we have to clear the land?
We're not purchasing.
Well, the action, and Eric, could just fill in the gaps for me if you don't mind. Our action is to foreclose on the property because there is a first mortgage on the property. And so theoretically, you have to resolve it with the first mortgage holder. And then whether we tear down the building or sell it as is, the city would have to do what we call a RFP, request for purchase, and seek bids for that particular property. Yeah, we've had calls, people saw the agenda item, want to get in first in line and all that kind of stuff, but ultimately we have to do an RFP, and we'll put a minimum bid price on it based upon all the costs that we expend, and then and that could happen, and then we would take bids and sell it to the highest bidder.
Are we technically just trying to get our money back, or it's okay to make a profit from it?
Well, that's to be determined in the future. Again, I don't know all the costs there. We have to do another update title report to make sure that there's no additional liens on since we did the last one. And so, yeah, there are a lot of variables right now to go forward and making sure that we can complete this action. Certainly, the property owner could come in and write checks to Regions Bank and to the city and everything else. I mean, there's all kinds of different variables that play into this. But ultimately, our goal is to get this building either torn down and built new or completely rehabilitated to where it complies with the Florida Building Code.
And if we were to do this tonight, there's no risk to the city?
Mr. Johns, do you see any risks to the city at this particular point?
We would not own the property. If we file a foreclosure action, we would name the landowner as a defendant and any inferior liens that we pick up, but we don't own the property until a foreclosure auction or a foreclosure sale happens at the end after we get a final judgment of foreclosure. So there's no risk to the city, for example, from trespass, because we would not have title as long as the foreclosure is going on. If we become the successful bidder at the foreclosure sale, then yes, there is potential risk from someone getting injured because we're now the landowner.
So tonight, with the up to $350,000, are we just saying that's the amount we would max out at on bidding on buying the property?
That's the authority that you're granting me to make that if we pay off the first mortgage holder, that there's enough money there to do that for this foreclosure.
Paying off the first mortgage holder does not vest title in the city. It simply puts us in a first lien holder position. We still have to complete the foreclosure, go to the court has to hold a foreclosure sale to the highest bidder. It would just mean that there's no one ahead of us. What could happen if we file this foreclosure, and right now it appears we are in second place, Regions could turn around the next day and file a foreclosure action of their first mortgage. In that case, we then are thinking we would maybe want to have the flexibility to purchase the first mortgage and do what's called equitable redemption. And we redeem the Regions mortgage, and then we become what's called equitably subrogated, which means we step into the shoes of Regions Bank, and now we have a first lien and a second lien, and we now become the plaintiff in that other foreclosure action. So that's the reason for the 350 is what happens if Regions decides to foreclose their mortgage.
That's all. Thanks.
Councilmember Stevenson?
Continuing on that thought process, why isn't the bank foreclosing? Why are we choosing to even look at this as an option?
We think that the bank is getting ready to foreclose, but we can't control what the bank does. They have their own mind. They have their own attorneys. We've been told that the borrower is in default of the Regions mortgage, but we cannot force Regions Bank to foreclose. So with that, what if Regions chooses to let the default slide? Then what? Then we may want to go ahead with, Regions may not file a foreclosure until after we act and file a foreclosure. That could happen. Regions could beat us to the punch and they could file it first. We just don't know what they're going to do. They're not going to call us and tell us, hey, here's our roadmap, here's our game plan.
Well, I definitely agree something needs to be done. It's not a week goes by, I think, that someone doesn't ask me what's going on. Why doesn't the city fix this? And then people tell them, oh, well, you don't want the city involved. They're going to build apartments there. That property's too small for us to put apartments there, and that's not the intent at all in this, correct?
Well, never say never, going back to the Regions comment, if Regions does foreclose, Regions will do the same thing. It would probably have a foreclosure sale, and that will get to the same thing as this building being rehabilitated. They would probably sell it off. The new buyer would come in and rehabilitate the building, either tear it down, build a new one, or rehabilitate one that's there. The problem is there's a lot of issues with it being exposed for 5 years. Are the metal studs in there still good? Is the electrical wiring in there that's been exposed still good? There's just not a lot of inspections and everything else that we have to go through in order to rehabilitate. If somebody was going to try to rehabilitate that particular building, there's a lot of work that have to be done to do rehabilitation.
I think my last question is for you also, Carmen. Where are we getting this money from?
Well, as it said in here, it would be coming from the general fund reserve, and then obviously any purchase of the property or any money coming back, then obviously it would go back to the general fund reserve as a reimbursement.
I saw that. I just wanted to make sure everybody heard it. Thank you.
Vice Mayor Butland.
Thank you. I'm surprised there's not more people in the audience with public comment, because I'm zipping my mouth until this gets done. But the minute there's a vehicle in that parking lot or touching that fence, the calls are going to come in. You're going to need a script at the front desk so Julia knows exactly what to say to what these people and whatever. This has been the eyesore of DeBary. So I'm thrilled that we're taking action one way or the other. At least if there's movement, whether the bank does or whatever, I think we need to make sure we get this taken care of as soon as possible. I have no problem with authorizing Carmen up to $350,000. I think that's appropriate for the scenario that we have in front of us. Thank you, Mayor.
What I would like to note for everyone, particularly those listening, the city's claim is these fines that have accrued over time and are north of $200,000, correct?
Correct.
But in the way you and I think of our finances, it didn't cost the city, other than grief and staff action and citizens feeling that their city has a blight, and on and on. It cost us those. But that 200 and some thousand that we have a claim on this property didn't come out of our pocket. Now, Regions Bank, actually money came out of their pocket to create this mortgage. So we have, in my mind, a good plan to move forward, and the $350,000 would be needed for the costs of pursuing this action plan, meeting whatever action is taken by others, like the bank, and paying off the first mortgage that Regions Bank holds, if that's the next smartest move. And then there will be some cost to us for holding it, perhaps if we actually got clear title, raising it to make it safe, all of these things. And I think the $350,000 is what staff believes is enough to cover this exposure if it followed one of several paths and we did it. But I want the residents to understand that the money that the city is owed is accrued fines, which gives us this position, which is helpful because we can't let this go on in our city. And we need to, in my mind, pursue this in the direction that staff is asking. But it isn't real money like Regions is real money. And Regions may have different considerations than we do. They may say, yeah, he's in arrears, but we think maybe the city would foreclose on it, and we don't want to really own that thing and try to sell it because of its condition. I don't know their thought process. Neither does our attorney or our city manager. So the $350,000 to come out of general reserves is to give us the wherewithal to do this plan of having that property come under other more responsible ownership via this path, that path, or the other path, which we can't totally determine because there are other actors, namely Regions Bank, and perhaps other factors that come in. I know the owner has periodically sent somebody to City Hall with a new idea of what they could do, but it's gone so long, the condition is so poor, I don't think that we're in a position where we want to try to imagine, some plan that allows them to pull the fat from the fire at this late date, because there's so many unknowns, and if the mortgage is in arrears and the fines keep accruing, for us, for another buyer, say at an auction, essentially to get clear title, if I understand this correctly, they'd have to pay off Regions, or we would probably pay Regions in full, so we would probably be one of the higher bidders, perhaps a little bit more. And then they'd have to pay, if it's somebody other than us, they have to pay us off, because we have a lien as well.
Yep.
So it's going to cost somebody else a lot more to get ownership of the property through this series of events than it will the city. Am I correct?
Yes, you are.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so, Councilmember Sell, you have a follow-on question.
I do. It was Carmen's evil laugh down there. What could go on that piece of property? Because I know they need a retention pond.
Well, to tear it down, yes, they would have to go through the land development development process. It would require a retention pond. Again, some of the discussions we've had a long time ago, the reason why there's not one there is because it's grandfathered in. But once you tear it up and everything else, you are going to have to go back to the today's environmental standards, which is a retention pond, et cetera, et cetera.
What does that piece of land there, what are some things that could go in that space?
Well, that's in our, and maybe Richard, Stephen Babb can answer that question. Obviously, that's in our corridor. Certainly commercial retail, doctor's offices, and a number of different things, if I conveyed that properly.
Yes, you did.
All right.
In addition, you're
Carla?
saying the retention pond, no, we have, in our code, we ended new car, there's some grandfathered, but no new.
Yeah, there's no additional car lots.
But when we got the new auto parts store, the Riley's, there is a retention pond there. It's under the parking lot.
Yep.
Same for Dollar General, is my understanding. So, yes, it needs a retention pond. It doesn't need to be the grassy expanse we see at the edge of Rivington. It's not that necessarily. But, so that could be underneath the structure, as it is in two other properties nearby. Councilmember Stevens,
So Regions wouldn't be, they're not on the hook for the fine?
no.
No.
They have a first position, and we would have a second in the current
If it
world.
ended up in our hands, we have the option to waive that fine?
Well, if we are the owner and the fee is owed to us, do we take it out of one pocket and put it in the other? No. Do we take it out? If we own it, we bid it in, do you really want us to take the fine out of one pocket and put it in the other pocket on our books?
No, that just means we don't have anything invested in the fines.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. Councilmember Stevenson?
Yes. Would you be able to say other cities do this type of process also for blighted properties? Is this fairly common?
That I do not know for sure.
We're doing one now for Winter Park.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Okay, if there's no further discussion, I would entertain a motion.
I make a recommendation that the city council approve the initiation of foreclosure action on 150 U.S. Highway 1792, DeBary, Florida, also known as Bank of America Building, and authorize the city manager to expend up to $350,000 if necessary to satisfy the first mortgage held by Regions Bank.
Second.
Vice Mayor Butland?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevenson?
Yes.
Councilmember Sell?
Yes.
And I am a yes. The next item on our agenda is...
Thank you.
The applicant, Aiden Ordonez Construction, is requesting City Council allow one historic 48-inch diameter at breast height live oak to be removed from 332 Lake Crescent Drive for the purpose of building a new single-family residence.
Stephen Bapp, Growth Management Director. I'll be giving the presentation. It is a request for approval to remove one 48-inch diameter live oak tree. Where is this project at? It is in the subdivision that is on the east side of Interstate 4 and south of DeBerry Avenue, which is also known as Dirksen Drive. It is a lot on a curve, and it has never been built on or developed as long as we have had the property platted. Historic trees on site, what's actually on site right now? On site there are 3 historic trees, one a 38, one a 40, and one a 48-inch tree. And you can see this on the indicated map. Tree number 1 is a 40-inch DBH live oak tree on the top corner of your map. One is a 38-inch DBH on the bottom edge of the property, and one, the subject tree in question, circled in red, is the historic oak tree of 48 inches in diameter breast height. What restricts the site? One of the requirements for the site is to have a minimum setback, a front of 25, rear of 20, and the side combination of 20 feet with a minimum of one side being 8 feet. We've been working with the applicant, I would state, nearly a year on alternatives. We've gone through at least 2 arborists that the applicant had hired. And through the different lot iterations, we've gone from 3 possible historic trees being removed to, unfortunately, 1 historic tree being removed. And how this lays out, if you look on the left, that was the original site plan, or one of the options that was presented. And out of the 12 trees proposed on this plan, there would be 12 trees removed, 3 of which would be historic. On the plan 2, which is what we've came up with after deliberation and moving buildings around and a lot of thought by arborists and plumbers and drain field installers, we've reduced the total number of trees down to 7, with 1 of the 3 historic trees requiring to be removed, as verified by a certified arborist. The 40-inch DBH proposed for removal. The concerns with needing its removal is its proximity to the building structure. The tree's root zone would be too close to have a sustainable life for the tree. Also, there are many other site considerations which would impact the root growth and thus and shorten the life of the tree if left and remained. The habitat, as you see, also the canopy extends towards the construction site, providing significant conflict, and pruning of the tree removal would be needed and would risk the acceleration, the decline of the tree if it would remain on site. They're taking measures to preserve tree number 2, which is the second closest tree to the construction zone, by the following common arborist techniques shown on the screen. We've done these techniques on other sites, like along Tom's Road and those other infill developments, and in the last 3 years they've been proven to be successful to trees using these latest approved methods, which were certified by the arborists and their team. Staff feels we've taken, or the applicant has taken, all appropriate measures. However, we do recommend still that the City Council approve the request to remove the 48-inch DBH live oak tree number 3 as indicated on our plans. Thank you. And if implemented, if the council approves this request, staff will finalize a tree removal permit, including required replacement options for the tree, and the applicant then would proceed with tree removal once all related building permits and other approvals are completed. Thank you.
Acting City Attorney, do we have any public participation? I mean,
City Clerk.
City Clerk, I'll get it yet.
No, ma'am, we do not.
Thank you. Councilmember Sell.
Well, I'm normally the tree hugger. And I read this a few times, and they're doing the right thing. I have seen so many historic oak trees in my neighborhood go bye-bye in the middle of the night. Go to bed one night, wake up next morning, and somebody's getting rid of their oak tree because a limb fell on their roof, or they don't like squirrels, or whatever the reason is. We've lost a lot of historic oaks in my neighborhood. I have to applaud Ordonez Construction for doing it the right way and asking for permission. I love that they got it down to only removing one of the oak trees. Unfortunately, it is one of the older ones. But overall, I can't hold them responsible for all the other oak trees that I've seen lost. So I'm good with this. Thanks.
Councilmember Stevenson.
You're just one of the tree huggers, I think, on this council. And again, thank you for your efforts, hearing that you've been in negotiations and planning to try to save as many trees as possible on this site. Again, it's sad to see one go, but I'm glad that the two others are going to be saved, and I'm fine with it.
Vice Mayor Butland.
I'm okay with this. I have no further comments than what's already been said. Thank you.
I hate to vote for the removal of a historic oak. But would you click back one screen to the picture? There we go. On the left of this picture, proposed root pruning is the main thing that this picture is showing. But to the left is the 40-inch oak. Do you notice it appears to me already to be on an angle? It's probably one hurricane away from being a threat, which might be validated by an arborist for whatever. And I wish that we didn't have to give up any of them. But I do appreciate the amount of effort that staff and the applicant have put into trying to make this work without impacting the trees, because we can't grow these new anymore. You know, the equivalent trees, how many will they plant for a 40-inch? Or 48 inches it is, right? That's
I'm not sure on the form, that we do have a ratio, I just don't have.
Yeah, it has to do with the diameter and whatnot. All those saplings are not going to equal this tree.
No.
And I think each time we have this come up, I feel that deeply. All of those little trees are not going to do anything for us as far as managing stormwater, additional ozone in the air like this tree did. And so I mourn it's going, but I understand. And I appreciate all the work on both the applicant and the staff's part. So I would entertain a motion if there's no further discussion.
I'll make a motion to approve the removal of the 48-inch historic live oak tree number 3.
Councilmember Sell?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Butland?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevenson?
Yes.
And I am a yes. Moving on to agenda item number 7. The staff is requesting the City Council approve this and sign the interlocal agreement with Volusia County for construction of the Spring to Spring Trail Phase 3C segment.
Good evening. Richard Villasenor, City Engineer. So the purpose here is to grant the county permission for the construction within the right-of-way, the city right-of-way, including city easements, and establish the maintenance entity. On screen here, I've got an overall image of the trail alignment along Donald Lee Smith. North is to the right. The considerations here are Volusia County has designed and will construct a 12-foot wide multi-use trail along the west side of Donald Lee Smith, connecting the Blue Springs Trail at DeBerry Plantation Drive to the West High Banks Road Trail System. The county secured funding through the Florida Shared Use Non-Motorized Trail Program administered by FDOT. The agreement establishes county and city responsibilities for this project. The city easement from DeBerry Plantation 17 Unit 17 Homeowners Association has recently been signed. It is no longer pending. Currently, the county's tentative project timelines include construction bid advertisement. It says here at the end of this month, but maybe shortly next month. Contractor award in September 2025. No cost for this agreement other than the trail maintenance costs that are associated with taking that ownership. It's recommended that City Council approve and sign the interlocal agreement for construction of the Spring to Spring Trail Phase 3C segment. And this one did not have a resolution. The implementation obviously would be coordinating back to county and DOT for the assembly of the final bid documents. And any questions?
Okay.
Carmen.
Just a comment that the county don't require a resolution
Okay.
for in a local agreement that unfortunately FDOT requires a resolution, so.
Okay. Acting City Clerk, is there any public participation?
No, ma'am, there is not.
Councilmember Sell, questions or comments?
None at this time.
Councilmember Stevenson.
No questions, thank you.
Vice Mayor Butland.
I have my pen ready. Let's sign this thing and get it done. This has been going on way too long. I'm glad we got everything in place, but let's do it.
And I would say hooray for the HOA signing that final agreement we were promised 2 years ago. And I am glad that we are getting this under the wire before we lose the financing, which would have been July 1. So I'm heartily in agreement with this. As far as the cost of maintaining the trail, we decided long ago that that was part of our agreement as the trails were built out with Sun Trail money and county oversight through our community. So that's not something new that's being slipped in on this agreement.
So I'll make a motion to approve and sign the interlocal agreement for construction of the Spring to Spring Trail Phase C3 segment.
Second.
Vice Mayor Butland?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevenson?
Yes.
Councilmember Sell?
Yes.
And I am a yes. Agenda item number 8, the staff is requesting the City Council approve the maintenance memorandum of agreement with FDOT and adopt the new city resolution number 2025-07, authorizing execution of this agreement. City Attorney, would you read resolution number 2025-07?
Yes, Mayor. A resolution of the City of DeBary, Florida, authorizing the execution of a maintenance memorandum of agreement with the Florida Department of Transportation for an off-system multi-use trail project, providing for conflicts, severability, and an effective date.
Thank you.
And Richard Villasenor again, City Engineer. The purpose here, again, is to formally commit to permanent perpetual maintenance of this multi-use trail project upon its completion. FDOT procedures now require direct agreements with the responsible agency for the maintenance. Previously, these agreements were done with both construction and maintenance components in one document. The city already has similar agreements with FDOT for other existing trail segments through the city, including for US 1792. Maintenance is to follow FDOT standards at the city's sole cost and expense. The associated costs are estimated $8,000 annually based on other existing contracts. Funding is to be provided from the Parks and Recs Department Trail Maintenance Services budget. It is recommended that City Council adopt Resolution 2025-07, authorizing execution of the maintenance memorandum, and approve and sign the maintenance memorandum of agreement with FDOT. These will be returned back to FDOT and county for their final documentation package.
Thank you. Acting City Clerk, do we have any public participation?
No, ma'am, we do not.
Councilmember Sell?
No questions.
Councilmember Stevenson?
Nothing, thank you.
Vice Mayor Butland? And I have nothing to add. I would entertain a motion.
All right, I'll make a motion to adopt Resolution 2025-06, authorizing execution of the maintenance memorandum and approval and sign the maintenance memorandum of agreement with FDOT.
Is it 2025-6 or 7?
2025-07, that was
Oh,
unfortunately a typo there, so. if you
Oh,
don't
sorry,
mind,
2025-07.
Right.
Correct.
Second.
Vice Mayor Butland?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevenson?
Yes.
Councilmember Sell?
Yes.
And I am a yes. So we move on to agenda item number 9. The city manager is requesting the city council appoint 6 members to the initial board of directors of the DeBerry Foundation.
Thank you, Mayor. As you recall, the city council approved the creation of the foundation. We also approved James Old for chairman, for the first chairman of the board. We've been working diligently. As you recall, we engaged an attorney to help us establish, and her name is Jane Callahan, and she's helping us to go ahead and establish the corporation and to get the nonprofit status with the Internal Revenue Service. And so tonight, our challenge is to appoint 6 members to the initial board of directors. We had originally kind of talked about each one of the council members choosing one member, and then the mayor choosing 2. And then given the number of applicants and everything else, certainly we had talked about discussing it, and we had not gotten to discussing the possible change of our selection methodology. And so, Mayor, I'll turn it back over to you. I do have, you see there, we have a sheet there. One of the things I recommended to the council was that it may be a better selection option, because we, quite frankly, DeBerry's so fortunate with the talent that we have in our community and our business leaders that we have in our community, that it may be a better option to just each council member rank them in my email. And according to the bylaws, I made a recommendation, because I had to, pursuant to the bylaws, recommend to the council. And so I did that, and also recommended maybe the selection criteria. We use the same selection criteria as we did for our strategic planning, where we set our priorities based upon the number of votes a particular strategic initiative gets. And if everybody votes for a strategic initiative, obviously that's the highest priority. Using the same methodology with selecting these candidates here. And so just throw that up for consideration. Certainly you can use the original discussion that we had, one of each, and then the mayor gets 2, or you can alter your selection criteria to a method that we've used before with the strategic initiatives.
Thank you. Acting City Clerk, do we have any public participation?
No, ma'am, we do not.
All right. What I think I'd like to do here is a 2-part thing. Number 1, we had an earlier consensus of how we would select each member 1 and the mayor 2. And then this alternative idea came up, and this is doing a system that we've done before for other activities, which is there are 12 candidates. There are obviously not 12 seats. So we would just individually do 1, 2, 3, order people in preference order or whatever, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 through 12. And then the individuals with the 6 lowest scores, because 1 would be the first choice candidate, 2 would be the second choice for any individual council member. The 6 with the lowest scores would be those that would be named. I actually personally like the second, but I'd like us to decide on the methodology first, and then proceed with submitting our, whatever it is we do, whether it's our named candidate or our ranked criteria. So I'd like to go down, as we usually do, with questions and comments and get input as to the chosen manner of selection. Now, you will notice that Councilmember Papalardo is not here tonight, and he was, it is a scheduled absence. And so because this is not a vote, we're not saying, let's talk about so-and-so, how many like that person, let's raise our hands. This is not a regular agenda item. These are responsibilities that we accepted, that we would either name an individual, which he has left the name of the individual if that's what we choose, or rank the candidate slate, which he has left a ranked slate is my understanding, so that it will be all five weighing in, and this is not the same as a vote on an agenda item where we have a motion and an official vote on an item itself. Councilmember Sell, do you have a preference for selection method?
Well, looking at the resumes and the people that signed up, you could literally throw a dart and not,
And we're going to be well-served.
yes.
Yeah.
I don't really want to overthink this too much.
Yep.
Although in the future, if people feel like it's unfair the way we do the picking
Yeah.
of folks, then maybe we need to think up some way. If you pull people's names out of a hat.
Yeah.
It-
This
really
one,
doesn't.
I think, at least gives, the idea that we value everyone, and everyone brings a different thing to the plate. So personally, I like this better, but I'm willing to do it either way. We had a consensus early on that we would do it, as often happens with some other citizens' boards or whatever.
Personally, I'd like to do it the way we discussed, and then moving forward from there, put a little thought into how we're going to do this in the future.
Okay.
That's just my opinion.
Okay, Councilmember Stevenson.
But we're not appointing future boards. They get to elect their own boards after this
No,
initial
no.
appointment,
I'm
right?
saying, when we did
Okay.
Historic Preservation Board, say if we were starting afresh, we had a candidate, and he picked one, you picked one, but we have also done things differently. So I think we can, with confidence, pick through either method. What is your preference or your input?
Well, I do like this idea of ranked voting, and I also agree we have some wonderful candidates, but just for simplicity, I would just choose one person.
Okay, Vice Mayor
Stick with what
Butler?
we talked to.
I'm okay either way. I like this ranking 1 to 12, I guess. And the winners, I mean, they can't all be. That's not to say that somewhere down the road we don't need another member or something else. And the committee will have to look at that. But I'm thrilled that we're starting with 12 and have to choose.
Yeah.
Sad that you have to say no to somebody, but there's interest.
All right. My inclination is to use the selection score sheet. So I am not sure where we end up. We have two that say pick one, as we originally said, and I like this. And so Phyllis, what are we doing?
I like this.
Well, now we have a split, 2 and 2, because we don't have a fifth council.
Do we have this, okay, if we do the points, are we having a sheet that we can just mark the points on?
Yes,
Or do we
it
verbally?
looks just like this,
Okay,
and then we hand it, and
they'll tally it
they'll
over.
tally it, and we'll know who have the 6 lowest scores.
I like this one.
I don't have that printout.
Well, you will get it if we just choose to do this.
This document?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got blank documents here.
I like this method and just pick the one and then go from there.
In my email, I requested that the council rank them 1 through 12, in case the discussion went through using the scoring sheet.
Yeah. So, city manager, any guidance if we have 2 leaning towards one method and 2 leaning towards another?
Well, the only other option, Mayor, then is to, if you got a 2-2 and you're adamant about that, then we can postpone it until the June 4th meeting and when Jim Parpalardo gets back.
Well, I'm not sure it's worth a postponement. We have people here, and we have this process is moving on. I'm not sure that any of us would, don't speak for the rest.
What
But I don't
candidates-
think that
Which
delaying it-
candidates are here today?
We have
2.
Paul Benfield, we have Kathy Bishop here today. Of the 12, 2 are here. Others, I imagine, are watching online.
I would highly recommend then, if you're a split decision there, that we wait until the June 4th meeting and appoint then.
I'll make a motion to postpone this item until the June 4th meeting.
Is there a second?
A motion fails for lack of a second if we don't have a second. So we end up with.
Is there a motion the opposite direction? Is there a motion?
I can make a motion to do this tally sheet and turn it in and let them,
We'll see
and
what the
start with
vote is.
somewhere.
All right.
Are we tallying it now, or is
No,
this
no,
something we turn in
we're having a
tomorrow?
vote which way we're doing, because
Yeah.
we had a
Right.
feel for how people would vote, but we didn't have a vote about how to do it. So are you making a motion?
I am making a motion that we do this tally sheet, see where we end up. We have Jim's numbers, or his people that he's chosen, and we go from there.
I second.
And is
So-
one the best? Or is
One,
12?
one is your first choice, two is your second
Right.
choice in a ranked choosing. Now, we have not had the vote yet, which way we're doing it, though.
So we have
But
a
I have
motion and a
passed the gavel
second.
because technically, under modified Robert's rules, I don't have to do that. And specifically in our charter, it says, in Resolution 1520, it says that I may make motions. So I did this out of an abundance of caution, but it's now up to the vice mayor to call for the vote.
So we have a motion to do this. Councilmember Sell?
Sure, yes.
Councilmember Stevenson?
Sure.
And we're both a yes.
Yes,
There you go.
all right.
So here we go.
So should we take a 5-minute recess so those who haven't had the spreadsheet in front of them have time to consider their rankings? Or do we want to just pause the
I guess,
discussion for 5 minutes?
I don't know, Mr. Sell, have you ranked them 1 through 12?
Not yet.
Okay, well, maybe we should take a
And-
5-minute recess. or
Okay.
10-minute recess.
All right, we're going to take, do you think it will take 5 or 10 minutes? I'm willing to do either. 5. We are adjourned for a 5-minute recess. has filled out their ranking sheets. We will pass them to the acting city clerk and city manager for tabulation. And Councilmember Papalardo's is already in the city manager's possession. You heard me, right?
I had a jersey made up with Paul and everything. I was gonna do with the number one pick, City of DeBerry, selects Paul Banfield from Rivierville. At least I showed up. I had a hat, a shirt.
Mayor, just want to let you know that Mr. Papalardo only ranked 6. So we'll have to, let me just do the numbers here and we'll figure out how that works out. So just bear with us a little bit.
Unless he has a slate that is very different from everyone else's. City Manager, if there is any chance that the result is not clear, then I would second Councilmember Stevenson's motion, if offered again, to delay the vote until the next meeting.
Well, Mayor, as we compile the votes here, there are clear 5 candidates that are been selected. Theoretically, if you want to, you can go ahead and approve those 5 that are clear winners.
Okay?
And then I can contact Mr. Papalardo, who will be back tomorrow, for his ranking of the remaining candidates, and then I can have a
The
final
sixth-
number.
Then the 6th member would be known.
Yes.
What is your feeling?
5 are definitive.
I'll go with that.
Questions.
There's
Five
some-
are definitive. 5 of the 6 are definitive.
Yeah,
It's
that's-
number 6 that is not as clear.
And what we did was, he ranked them 1 through 6. We gave everybody else a 7, which is the best score
The best
possible.
possible score for
on his list.
everyone that wasn't ranked.
And so I don't know how he's going to rank the remaining 6 candidates, but there are 5 clear winners. You can certainly appoint those 5, and then based upon, and grant me the authority to work with him on ranking tomorrow, ranking his 1, and then we can certainly, you give me the authority to go ahead and approve the 6th one based upon his score. And then we can do that.
I'm fine with it.
Fine with that.
I'm
Yeah,
fine.
we have a consensus.
Consensus is, we'll do it that way. So would
Okay.
you announce the 5 that are clear? And the city will provide the information to the public tomorrow, probably by close of business, as to the identity of the 6th member.
Okay. The 5 candidates for the board is Kathleen Bishop, Richie Coloni, Anthony Galati, Paul Benfield, and Patricia D'Alessandro are the 5 candidates that are the clear winners there. And the 6th one, I just need to get clarification from Mr. Papalardo.
Okay?
And so I would entertain, what you should do is make a motion on those 5 candidates and grant the city manager authorization to work with Mr. Papalardo to rank the remaining number of candidates.
So that we can identify the 6th.
And then the city manager will identify the 6th one.
I'll make a motion to accept those 5 candidates and for the city manager to work with Councilmember Papalardo to determine the 6th.
Second.
Councilmember Stevenson?
Yes.
Councilmember Sell?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Butland?
Yes.
And I am a yes. So congratulations to the 5.
At least
Read
2
the
of them are
names
here.
again.
Kathleen Bishop, Richard Coloni, Anthony Galati, Paul Benfield, and Patricia D'Alessandro.
Okay. Well, congratulations, I think. Now starts the hard work. So we have finished the agenda items, and we're moving on to reports. Councilmember Sell, do you have anything to report?
I want to thank everyone who filled out those applications. I don't know who's going to be number 6, but I guess that'll leave everyone in a little suspense. All of you guys have impeccable resumes. That's all I can say. I really appreciate people sticking their neck out for things like this. Also, I'm excited because it looks like the car wash is getting a refresh. It's starting to look good. I'm assuming somebody bought it.
Salty Dog.
Salty Dog bought it, okay. And you may not realize it, there's a ton of car washes around, but if you own a boat, that's where you go with your boat, to wash it out, get fresh water on it, clean the trailer, dump all empty soda pop cans into the garbage there. So it actually will serve a good purpose. Also, everyone have a safe Memorial Day.
Councilmember Stevenson?
Nothing to add, thank you.
Vice Mayor Butland?
Just a few things. I attended the roundtable and heard about disaster preparedness, dangerous dog, and how Volusia County classified it. And of course, updates that on legislative actions that have been taken, well, even though they're not finished. So I also attended the mobility workshop here. Very few of us were here, but I went to the evening one. And it was interesting to have our study being looked at. I also wanted to congratulate the home rule heroes that we have in DeBary. It's myself, Mayor Chazet, Carmen Rosamondo, and Shari Simmons. There were 4 of us, and the only other city that had 2 or more than 1 was Daytona Beach. So of all the cities in Volusia, congratulations to you all. You'll be honored or mentioned again tomorrow night at the Volusia League of Cities banquet. But I wanted to make sure everyone was aware that we did a good thing.
Great.
That's it.
I also attended the mobility town hall, and I did the daytime one. I was representing residents, so the daytime one didn't draw a large crowd, but it was a very well-done presentation by the consultant and in preparation for unveiling our update of our mobility plan. And I also have done a number of other things. I was here for CompStat. Again, DeBary's stats are in good shape. Lots of traffic stops, good resolution rates on the crime in the city, all good stuff. I did meet with other area representatives at the VIP Hobnob in DeLand that was hosted by the DeLand Chamber last week. It was meant to be at the end of the legislative session, which, as we all know, hasn't ended. So it was interesting to visit on certain topics with other representatives, but there is still work to be done in Tallahassee, so it wasn't the normal raise a glass, it's over this year kind of aura that we have at other events in other years. And on Sunday, I did support the Foundations for Freedoms through their annual fashion show fundraiser. Foundations for Freedom provides domestic violence survivors services here in West Volusia. And that's helpful because the Domestic Abuse Council, which is the official such shelter for Volusia that's supported by the state, is in Daytona Beach, and they have limited capacity. And often the anecdotal stories I hear from women in Western Volusia is, we called and they're full. And so Foundations for Freedom is led by an executive with some personal experience, and she is very good at trying to find help for individuals who are faced with housing issues or protection issues or other things here in West Volusia. So the way I supported it was I walked in the fashion show. That was an experience. Largely fun, but a different role for me. City Manager, do you have anything to report?
Just a couple announcements, Mayor. As you know, about 6 or 8 months ago, we approved the purchase of the Duke property adjacent to Sullivan Park on the east side, and that has been completed. So we are now the owners of that. There is a 25-foot buffer, woods buffer between the Duke's property and Sullivan. So that's something that was agreed to, and so the closing is now done. It's about a little over 5 acres. We're going to leave it as is until y'all tell me what you want done with it. If you really want anything to do with it, certainly we clean up all the vines and everything else, extend the fence all the way around to make sure that it's our property. Nobody can access it unless they climb a fence. That's up to you, but you let me know. And the second is the James Pond. The pump station is now functional and ready to go for hurricane season. So those are the 2 things I wanted to let you know. And then we actually did get our first permit for Alexander Island finally. And so we're moving one step closer each and every day to getting that guaranteed maximum price to the council here, hopefully by June or July.
Thank you very much. City Attorney, anything to report?
Nothing to report. Happy Memorial Day to everyone.
Thank you so much, and we stand adjourned.